Poultry farms devastated, millions of birds killed or put down.
How an avian flu outbreak here in Utah is impacting ecosystem lives and wallets, what it means and why this year was different.
Tonight, the crisis facing an important Utah industry.
Floods hitting farmers hard, how all this water is affecting Utah's crops.
Tracking some gusty thunderstorms tonight, but what about for your morning drive and how long will our flooding concerns last?
A price jump at the pump earlier than normal, hitting Utahns especially hard. I wanted to know why.
A new phone scam is popping up across Salt Lake, and police say these callers are convincing. The latest hoax you need to look out for.
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13 News at 9 starts right now.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Kelly Chapman.
And I'm Bob Evans. For months now, we've watched as the price of chicken and eggs has continued to go up. Part of the reason is a nationwide avian flu outbreak over the past year.
And here in Utah, experts say this outbreak was the worst the virus has ever been, with other animals falling sick as well. As Fox 13 News reporter Maithili Gubi shows us in this in-depth report, concerns about the virus spreading could continue.
But this outbreak has been substantial, and we haven't seen anything like this in the past.
Avian flu causing havoc.
Definitely something that we're concerned about.
Last year, a highly contagious strain of avian flu hit the country, including farms and backyards in Utah.
Early in the morning in mid-April of last year, when one of the employees reported seeing an extraordinary number of birds dead at one of the buildings, we knew something was bad right away because you just don't see that kind of mortality.
Cliff Lillywhite with Oakdale Egg Farms in Cache County explains that those birds were tested and confirmed that they had avian flu. That's when about 1 million birds at the facility had to be euthanized.
When they're your friends, they're your lifeblood. It's not fun to do, but yet from the big perspective, we knew it had to be done. It does take a toll. There's no question about it.
Out of 2.2 million birds that either died from the virus or were depopulated to prevent the spread, over 1.5 million birds were in Cache County, about 700,000 in Sanpete County, and more detected in Iron, Salt Lake, Utah, and Weber counties. You've probably seen its effect in grocery stores.
Eggs got a lot more expensive. Turkey was really hard to find at Thanksgiving.
Avian flu is carried by migratory birds. Those birds typically don't fall sick from the virus. But with how infectious this strain was, those birds fell sick, died as well, many of them washing up along the shores of the Great Salt Lake.
It's pretty rare that it's been killing off the wild birds.
The Utah Division of Wildlife Resources says the wild birds with the highest detected cases were geese, about 40%. Other wild birds included owls, hawks, ducks, vultures, grebes, gulls, and pelicans.
And when birds are, localized in a single area, it is much more concerning because the risk goes up substantially on creating another type of strain.
And with these rising water levels, wildlife veterinarian Virginia Stout says this could bring more birds carrying the virus to the area.
I do think we will still have cases. We are worried about the spring migration causing elevation of our cases, but we're hoping that since it has been around for a year, it may not be quite as devastating.
Now, places with birds are strengthening biosecurity measures to prevent another outbreak.
Well, we had to limit the number of people that can come on the farm, number one. That's why this interview is being done this way, rather than having you on the farm with the chickens.
And places that are especially susceptible to the virus are doing their part as well.
Providing feeding exclusion devices where our birds can eat without interacting with wild birds.
They don't allow the public to feed waterfowl anymore because it attracted other wild birds that could be carrying the virus and could infect other birds that prey on them.
Our golden eagles, for instance, they are known to hunt wild ducks that fly into their exhibit. So netting the exhibit prevents the ducks from getting in with the eagles.
It's spreading to some mammals too. Foxes, bears, mountain lions, skunks, seals, and others across the country. Here in Utah, a mountain lion and fox were found with the virus.
What it means to us when we see infections in mammals is that the virus is changing. because flu viruses mix in animal hosts, and that's where they change and develop new characteristics.
Could avian flu ever infect humans?
This H5N1 could never become a threat to humans or a bigger threat to humans, and it could change quickly. It could take many years before these changes occur. We just don't know.
The USDA is working on avian flu vaccine trials, with initial results expected later this month, hoping to prevent future outbreaks.
Like something you never want to have to repeat again in your lifetime.
In Salt Lake City, I am Maithili Gubi, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Well, it's been tough flying weather here in northern Utah. We've had thunderstorms and heavy winds.
Yeah, there was maybe some lightning as well, Allison. Did that come to fruition?
We had a couple of thunderstorms that arrived earlier this evening. A lot of those have died down, making way for a really pretty but just soft sunset right now. Live look from the Oquirrh Mountain Camp, but it was 53 miles per hour a few hours ago here in Salt Lake City with our maximum observed wind gust today. So that was around 5:30. You might have felt it if you were downtown at that time. Provo, you've made it to about 20 miles per hour, closer to 40 miles per hour for Evanston, Logan, Ogden, and Tooele today. Across southern Utah, a lot of wind near 40 to 45 miles per hour. Cedar and Milford. St. George, you've been about 30 miles per hour today for your strongest wind gusts. Storms clearing nicely. We still have some rain up towards Bear Lake, down into the Wasatch Mountains, down towards just south of Provo Canyon, and down towards Payson. Still lightning moving through Wyoming, but we're heading into the overnight hours and we're going to end up with a pretty calm night. So when you wake up tomorrow morning, temperatures will likely be about 35 to 45 for much of the state. We'll talk more about more chances for storms over the next couple of days and what's continuing to be some more flooding concerns here across the region.
See you soon, Allison. Thanks. Well, many farms in northern Utah are submerged in water. In fact, the Bear River is running high and fast right now, overflowing onto surrounding land.
Fox 13 News reporter Jenna Bree shows us how these floods are hurting Utah farmers and why the worst is likely yet to come.
This is so deep.
Joel Ferry waded through waist-high water, surveying his underwater farm.
As a farmer, I roll the dice every day. We know that this comes with part of this livelihood that we live. It's not easy, but we just try to get by day.
The executive director of the DNR says he's tried estimating the loss Utah farmers face this summer, and it's devastating.
We don't know. It'll be in the millions of dollars, though. It will.
Floods come in cycles, but Ferry says this is unprecedented for the Bear River.
So my family has been on this property for over 125 years now, and this is crazy. I was looking back at the records. The river on May 8th has never flowed this high before.
Every fall, this area turns into Ferry's pumpkin patch. That won't be happening this year because it's under 4 feet of water.
This is where my family, my wife and I, we do a little pumpkin patch for the community. This is where we plant pumpkins. We're not going to be able to plant pumpkins this year.
Instead of losing money, many of those who farm along the Bear River feel they've lost an opportunity.
I've got some grain and hay that I've had planted, and I didn't fertilize it because I was pretty sure I was going to lose it.
Ronald Thompson says he's worried about all the snow that's still up in the mountains that has to come down.
I've had my crops planted, and approximately half of my ground is under.
There is one silver lining amid the devastation.
The Bear River alone is putting about 20,000 acre-feet of water into Great Salt Lake every day. That adds up.
Ferry says we still can't take an inch of this water for granted.
This drought may be ending, or maybe close to ending. The next one's just around the corner. We're either in a drought or the next one's coming. And so we have to be smart about how we use this water.
In Corinne, Jenna Bree, Fox 13 News, Utah.
A Summit County woman who wrote a children's book on how to deal with grief of losing a loved one is now accused of killing her husband. Today, 33-year-old Corey Richens was charged with aggravated murder of her husband, Eric, and 3 charges of drug possession with intent to distribute. Now, the book she wrote about grief was published on March 7th of this year, almost a year to the day after her husband died. At the time, Corey told police she made her husband an alcoholic beverage, claiming a short time later he was cold to the touch. An autopsy showed Eric died of a fentanyl overdose. The medical examiner said there were 5 times the lethal dosage of the drug in his system. Charging documents say Corey had allegedly asked acquaintances for help getting prescription pain medication. Eric had also allegedly told a friend he thought his wife was trying to poison him. His obituary says they had been married for 9 years at the time of his death, and they had 3 children together.
A man is recovering and 3 juvenile suspects are in custody after a shooting this afternoon at Valley Fair Mall in West Valley City. Police say they got a shots fired call at the mall just before 5:15. The victim, a 25-year-old mall patron, was shot in the hip. He was taken to the hospital where he is expected to survive. Police say the incident happened in front of one of the stores in the mall and was captured on video.
I watched a portion of today's video, and it happened quite quickly. And then, depending on if anybody was in the immediate area, they may not have seen anything. But yeah, if you hear gunshots or you hear something that sounds like a gunshot, find shelter, get out, find shelter. We definitely don't want more victims than we already had. I think we're lucky that we only had 1 victim today.
The 3 suspects were detained at the track station across the street from the mall. Investigators never put the mall on lockdown because they knew from multiple witnesses the suspects had already left. With the exception of the police presence, the majority of the mall operated as usual this evening.
They know your names, they play on your fears, and Utahns are getting caught off guard.
It was so believable. Completely believable. I mean, even the guy on the other end of the phone, he was also panicking.
A convincing phone scam making the rounds in Utah. How they could prey on you.
And the swelling and the bruising. It was horrific.
The mother of a Utah man punched repeatedly by police officers last month is taking legal action. What she wants to see happen moving forward.
And closing in on an agreement that could dramatically impact the sales tax on food and how Utah schools are funded. We break down the negotiations between lawmakers and the state's largest teachers union right now.
Coming up, we'll hear from Aurora Morgan from Juan Diego, who scored a record 44 goals this season.
Scammers are getting more savvy with how they try to trick you over the phone, knowing people's names and using effects to make their schemes sound realistic.
It's very scary. Fox 13 News reporter Emily Tenser spoke to recent targets in Utah who described the calls as disturbing but convincing.
Picture this. There's a person in the background screaming, crying, hyperventilating.
You get a call from a man claiming to be a police officer saying there's been an accident and your loved one's in pain.
He thought it was me. They knew our names. They were calling me by my name and by his name.
Melissa Goodman's husband was in his car on the go trying to find his wife, who callers say was hurt and owed them $10,000.
It was so believable. Completely believable. I mean, even the guy on the other end of the phone, he was also panicking. They said if he pulled anything crazy that I would be killed in a shootout.
Later, the couple would learn it's a popular scam popping up across Salt Lake.
The more technology is out there and the more people are out there and things people can access on the internet, they're just going to get that much more savvy with their information.
The same thing happened last week to a political journalist here at our content partner, the Salt Lake Tribune. The caller also knew his daughter's name, had the same story, and also played a recording of a woman screaming in pain.
All I hear is just this really hysterical crying. I can hear someone who's there with her asking her to take a breath or drink some water.
In a TikTok, journalist Brian Schott says he knew something was up when this alleged police officer refused to tell him where to go.
I'm pretty convinced that this is a scam, so I put him on speakerphone and I text my daughter. And I say, "Are you okay?" And she immediately comes back to me and says, "Yeah, I'm fine."
Thankfully, both Schott and Goodman's husband caught on to the trick and didn't pay a cent, but they want to warn the public to be alert that these scammers are smart.
I would hang up and call like your loved one.
In Salt Lake, Emily Tenser, Fox 13 News, Utah.
A 19-year-old missionary for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints died early today after Clearfield police say he tried to jump over a scooter and hit his head.
It happened last night near 750 East 2050 South in Clearfield. Police say Isaac Henninger of New Brunswick, Canada, and his companion were talking with a group of juveniles who were riding an electric scooter. They say Henninger tried to jump over that scooter as it approached, but fell and hit his head. He was taken to Holy Cross Hospital in Layton and then flown to University Hospital, but died early this morning. Police believe it was nothing more than a tragic accident.
Well, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is responding to a lawsuit accusing it of copyright infringement. The family of revered artist Minerva Teichert is suing the church, saying they do not have the copyrights to reproduce these works, which are being sold online and in Deseret bookstores. In a formal response to the lawsuit today, the church insists it does have the copyrights to Teichert's paintings. The Teichert family has a similar lawsuit pending against the church in Wyoming over what they claim is the unauthorized removal of some of her works from a church there.
The Ute tribe is suing Utah's School Institutional Trust Lands Administration, or SITLA. It's over a land deal involving Tabby Mountain. The tribe claims it submitted the highest bid for the land, which is already inside the Ute Ouray Reservation. But instead, the tribe claims SITLA conspired to give it to the state instead because of discrimination. The lawsuit was filed in federal court. SITLA says they are aware of the filing and strongly disagree with the accusations.
Great picture just coming into the Utah's Weather Authority Facebook group. A double rainbow at the University of Utah. This picture coming in from Charles. I think this was taken yesterday. What an absolutely beautiful scene. Now we're tracking a lot of flooding concerns still here across the state, though. So with the storms, of course, there's question marks with the snow melt, and does any additional rain potentially hurt what's already problematic for flooding? So I want to go ahead and alert you to every single thing that we have going on across the state right now. Flood warning for the Bear River at Corinne until further notice. Just east of there towards the Cache Valley, an aerial flood watch along Little Bear River below Hiram Reservoir through Friday afternoon. And then we've got a flood warning for the South Fork of the Ogden River near Huntsville until further notice. Into eastern Rich County, flood warning along the Bear River in eastern Rich County and in western Uintah County, Wyoming through next Monday, likely to be extended as we look down towards a flood watch for the lower Weaver River at Plain City until further notice. As we hop down towards Moab, we continue with a flood warning for the McPhee Reservoir to the confluence with the Colorado River through Tuesday night and over towards the Sevier River. Flood warning near Hatch until further notice. So for Salt Lake City right now, sun just set. It's 58 degrees here in Salt Lake, full visibility at 10 miles. It did get down to a couple of miles around 5:30 today. A really strong wind gust came through, kicked up a lot of dust, and we had some low visibility for about a half hour. But as we look at temps right now and visibility across the state, things are looking pretty good for anybody who's going to be on the roads right now. Storms clearing off to our east as we look just north of Rock Springs. Still some lightning moving through just southwest of Lander. A little bit of rain towards eastern Utah in the Uinta Basin as well. But as we look at the bigger picture across the state tonight, precipitation chances unlikely through the evening for pretty much all of you. Overnight temperatures here across the state about 35 to 45 as you wake up tomorrow morning. For the Wasatch Front tomorrow throughout the day, we're going to be close to 70 degrees for a high. Should be a nice spring day. For St. George, you're going to be close to 80 tomorrow for a high, low 80s. We'll have plenty of sunshine. It'll be a hot day at noon tomorrow, though. Sunny and 74, sounding really good. Here across the state tomorrow, mostly dry conditions, beautiful spring weather, close to 70 for much of the state. Wind will still be a little strong over the next hour or two here across Utah, but by 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, much more calm here across Utah. But another gusty day in the forecast for tomorrow. Not as gusty as today, though. We're not expecting those gusty outflow winds like we saw this afternoon. St. George, low 80s tomorrow, 77 on Wednesday, close to 90 this weekend. For the Wasatch Front, close to 70 degrees Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Closer to 80 degrees this weekend. We'll take a look at your 2-week temperature outlook coming up in the Super 7-day forecast. We'll be right back.
Today in the Lori Vallow Daybell murder trial, an FBI agent revealed texts between Lori and Chad Daybell. They referenced evil spirits inhabiting various family members and how Chad would rate how close they were to death. In one text exchange in August of 2019, Lori asked Chad, "Do you think there is a perfectly orchestrated plan to take the children? And we just have to wait for it to be carried out. I feel lost, like I should be doing something to help." Just weeks after those texts were sent, prosecutors say Tylee Ryan and J.J. Vallow were dead. Their bodies were found in Chad Daybell's backyard. Trial resumes tomorrow.
Well, tonight, we're learning more about a letter Brian Laundrie's mother sent to him, which was found with his remains. Laundrie confessed to killing his girlfriend, Gabby Petito, in Wyoming before taking his own life. Petito's parents say the letter mentions, quote, baking a cake with a shiv in it, unquote, should her son go to prison. Now, the Petitos are suing the Laundries, claiming they knew their son murdered Gabby and were working to help him flee the country. As part of that suit, they're asking a judge to order Roberta Laundrie to turn over the letter, which also references bringing a shovel to help bury a body and included the phrase "burn after reading" on the envelope.
The mother of a man seen in a video late last month being punched and tased by Ogden police officers during an arrest has filed a lawsuit against the department.
They beat him unnecessarily.
What's in that lawsuit and what she hopes happens next?
The first Utahn to be convicted of a violent felony for the January 6th riot gets sentenced today. We'll tell you what his family thinks should happen.
They're supportive of the direction we're heading.
Legislative leaders say they're making progress on a proposed constitutional amendment involving education and the sales tax on food.
The waters are coming down hard and fast right now. How to keep your pets safe around the water.
The Utah lacrosse team making history, going to the NCAA championships for the first time ever. We'll hear from the team coming up.
The mother of Sean Sims, seen in this video being punched by Ogden police officers, is suing the department on her son's behalf.
This comes after Ogden Police Chief Eric Young said the actions of those 4 officers were justified.
Fox 13 News reporter Chris Arnold spoke with Sims' mother and her attorney today, who say the force used on Sims was excessive.
Sean is a non-violent person.
Marsha Quintana was seen wiping away tears Monday morning.
He did not have a gun that day.
As her attorney, Robert Sykes, went through the body camera footage released nearly 2 weeks ago, showing 4 Ogden police officers' use of force when arresting her 30-year-old son, Sean Sims. This stems from an incident on April 22nd, when police say they saw Sims walking in traffic on Washington Boulevard near 17th Street. After a brief foot chase, Sims was taken to the ground by an officer as they tried to get him to comply.
When I did see him, I was, for lack of better terms, I was floored at his face and the swelling and the bruising. It was horrific.
Now, Quintana and Sykes say they filed this 28-page complaint in federal court on Monday on Sims' behalf. It lists several causes of action, pointing to what they believe was excessive force that violated Sims' Fourth Amendment rights, to what they feel are unlawful or deficient policies, procedures, and/or protocols by the Ogden Police Department. The complaint goes on to say no use of force is reasonable when a suspect is fully subdued and not resisting, adding that Sims was not fighting back or otherwise threatening the officers.
He said I was afraid they were going to kill me, Mom. And I didn't want to fight them because I didn't want to die.
After that complaint was filed, I did reach out to the Ogden Police Department today. I was told that they have nothing new to say on this matter and that their previous comments about the incident still stand. During a press conference just days after the incident took place, Ogden Police Chief Eric Young said the actions of his officers were justified. He says Sims reached into his waistband, leading officers to believe that he was trying to access a gun. During a phone call with his mother while he was in custody, Sims said he was under the influence of drugs at the time and made a finger gun gesture towards officers.
Officers struck Sims with fists in the head, shoulder, and back area numerous times to try and gain compliance.
This disturbs me. When I saw that press conference, the way they justified this beating.
Fox 13 News asked Quintana what she hopes happens next.
I want to see the parties involved in the beating of my son held accountable.
In Ogden, Chris Arnold, Fox 13 News, Utah.
6 house fires in 2 weeks now under investigation in Salt Lake City. While all the fires, including 2 over the weekend, were in vacant buildings, it's unknown whether any of them are related. There have been no injuries or rescues reported in these fires. They do ask that citizens report any suspicious activity.
A Utah man who became a face of the insurrection at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th, 2021, was sentenced today.
Fox 13 News investigative reporter Nate Carlisle has been tracking the case and has this latest update.
This has been about election integrity from day one.
Flags inside the Capitol, y'all, right there. Back windows.
Brendan Copeland still doesn't think his brother Landon committed a crime on January 6, 2021.
Landon and those like him are just political reprisals of a system that's no longer, the majority of which is no longer democratically elected.
But Landon Copeland admitted to assaulting police. And Monday, a federal judge sentenced him to 36 months in prison. Copeland's already spent 2 years in jail while his case was pending. The judge gave him credit for that.
They took that crowd control gate and they had it up about chest high and they were pushing it into people, stabbing them with the feet on the bottom of it.
When we interviewed Copeland from jail in 2021, he contended he defended himself and others from police outside the Capitol.
And I grabbed a hold of it with the rest of the people that were there and we went to shaking it, trying to shake the officers off of it. And then they hit everybody with pepper spray and they were saying, hit their hands, hit their hands.
In court filings, prosecutors asked Copeland receive a sentence of 52 months. They cited his fighting with police, a lack of remorse, and a previous criminal history that includes a dishonorable discharge from the Army for growing marijuana. What do you think would be a just sentence for him this afternoon?
Time served.
Copeland is the first Utahn to be convicted of a violent felony for January 6th and the first to receive a lengthy incarceration. In all, 8 Utah residents have been convicted. 4 others have pleaded not guilty and are awaiting trial. In the newsroom, Nate Carlisle, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Well, the judge also sentenced Copeland to 3 years of supervised release. The first 6 months of that will be home detention.
The Huntsman Cancer Institute is expanding. Today, the Institute held a dedication ceremony for the Catherine F. Kirk Center for Comprehensive Cancer Care and Women's Cancers. This 220,000 square foot building adds 48 inpatient rooms. That's a 50% increase, something much needed since the current hospital is often at capacity. The expansion also includes a floor dedicated to breast and gynecological cancers.
Well, the Salt Lake City School District announced this year's Teacher of the Year today. Kathy Bigler teaches 5th grade at Whittier Elementary School. She was presented with the award right in front of her class, who cheered and shared what they love about Mrs. Bigler. She will now be considered for the statewide Teacher of the Year award.
Coming up, prepare for more pain at the pump. I take a closer look at why Utah gas prices are on the rise.
And details of a near agreement between Utah lawmakers and the state's largest teachers union over removing the income tax earmark for education. We'll explain next. Utah lawmakers may be close to reaching an agreement with the state's largest teachers union when it comes to a proposed constitutional amendment.
Fox 13 News political reporter Ben Winslow has the story from downtown Salt Lake.
Appearing at the Utah Taxpayers Association conference, House Speaker Brad Wilson says expect another tax cut next year.
I think that there's going to be a lot of interest in continuing to reduce the income tax. We've proven that as the state grows, we can make wise investments in the needs of the state, but also give people tax relief.
He tells Fox 13 News progress is being made in negotiations between the legislature and the state's largest teachers union over a proposed constitutional amendment.
I was told they're supportive. I think they still want to keep working on it, but they're supportive of the direction we're heading.
It removes the sales tax on food, but only if voters approve the amendment that lets the legislature dip into the income tax to fund other government needs. The Utah Education Association can be a powerful force on Capitol Hill and could impact the amendment's odds of passage when it goes before voters next year.
And I can't speak for them, but from my perspective, they're actually in a much better spot down the road to have some language in the Constitution that says the legislature will fund growth and inflation and education before it funds anything else.
The Utah Education Association tells me it still has taken no position on the proposed constitutional amendment, but is reviewing the language and its impacts to public education.
Those conversations are ongoing, and we are trying to build, some consensus with the UEA and with other education stakeholders.
Senator Dan McKay chairs the Senate Revenue and Taxation Committee. He's also optimistic.
I'm convinced that everybody at the table will make a better decision, and I'm convinced that, like the speaker said, we're going to be in a great spot by the time the session comes around with the language and everything else in place.
For lawmakers, it's a big gamble with voters. They want to pay for other essential government services, but the income tax, a stable revenue stream, is earmarked for education. Sales and other taxes are more volatile.
It's time Utah gets rid of it, and we think it will pass when it comes on the ballot in 2024.
The Utah Taxpayers Association says it supports the proposed amendment.
Removing the sales tax on food is popular, is an idea that folks want to see happen, and coupling it with the earmark actually makes logistical sense because we can't cut that general fund that's smaller to pay for all these other services unless that firewall is removed.
In Salt Lake City, Ben Winslow, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Still ahead, what precautions dog owners are taking around swift water with elevated dangers right now.
The Utah lacrosse team made history. We'll hear from the team after they earned their first ever spot in the NCAA championships. And Juan Diego's Aurora Morgant has done something no other high school boys soccer player has ever done in Utah. We'll hear from him coming up in sports.
Utah gas prices have jumped significantly in recent weeks and earlier than normal headed into summer. AAA says Utah's average for a gallon of regular gasoline is $3.92 a gallon. That's up 25 cents in the last month. The national average is $3.53. This afternoon, I spoke with AAA regional spokesman Julian Paredes in Phoenix.
What could be happening is Arizona has been really hurting for supply for gasoline because 2 refineries in the region have had to shut down for maintenance. And Arizona has seen some of the most expensive gas prices in the country because of that. Now, normally that wouldn't affect Utah, but it's possible that some gas from Utah has been diverted south to help alleviate some of the pressure. And with that comes higher gas prices.
Paredes says the 2 refineries should be back online soon, but he says with Memorial Day coming, which is the traditional start to summer travel and higher demand, even with the refineries coming back online, we could see prices stay the same. But on a brighter note, Paredes points out the national price of gasoline has been falling, which could mean the higher prices we're seeing generally might only be temporary.
Well, last week we reported on 2 separate cases of dogs getting swept away in rushing water, one in a local dog park. This week that threat is only getting worse. Fox 13 News anchor Amy Nay caught up with some dog owners.
It's a perfect place to come during the week.
It's the best getaway.
Yep.
Poppy loves it. It's her happy place.
A beautiful spring morning this Monday up Mill Creek Canyon.
You have to be super careful up here for sure.
But rushing water and their pup Poppy have the Holmes taking a few precautions.
Yeah, we keep her on a leash because there's things she likes to chase, and sometimes those things head towards the water. So we want to keep her at a safe distance from the water.
They say just last week they were here in knee-deep snow.
It's just crazy how much it's melted off and how much is coming down now.
And have been on high alert after hearing about at least 2 dogs that got swept away in local creeks last week.
It's scary and it's heartbreaking. It's absolutely heartbreaking because the owners weren't that far away from their dogs. They're just a few seconds behind them.
Poppy, a rescue they've had the past 6 years, is curious in the water, but usually keeps her distance. Still, they keep a close watch on days like this, knowing like many other dogs, she could jump right in.
And I don't think they see the power in the water.
So some dog owners like Nancy and Guy are keeping their dog on a leash when near these rushing waters, but others are investing in a life vest for their pet, and one local boutique owner says it can save their life.
Absolutely, yeah.
Connor Gempler is co-owner of the dog wash and boutique Paw Paws on 2100 East and 13th South in Salt Lake.
Just like a human, really. If you're in the water and you aren't a competent swimmer, life jacket's a good idea, right?
And he says you can't assume they're all good swimmers.
I had a bulldog years ago. He would sink.
Showing us how to fit your dog to determine the right size for a life jacket by measuring their chest right behind their front legs.
Just like that.
There's a lot of force behind that kind of volume of water, and people just don't understand.
Unified Fire's Clint Meekum is Salt Lake County's Director of Emergency Management and is nervous about Mill Creek.
If you don't have a need to be around that water, just flat stay away. It's very cold. There's a lot of debris in it. You might be standing on a bank that's maybe been undercut because of the flow. You just don't know if you're going to go in, and we just don't want to see anybody get hurt.
He says if your pet or someone else were to fall in, you shouldn't go in yourself, but rather call 911.
Try and keep up with that person as they move. You go in after them, you're going to have the same exact problems that they're going through. You're going to be just instantly incapacitated and add to the problem rather than create a solution. Please, just stay away from it.
In Salt Lake County, Amy Nay, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Such good advice as we continue with flooding concerns here, especially in northern Utah. Now, as we look at our conditions right now here in Salt Lake City, it's 58 degrees in Salt Lake, 56 for Ogden, 56 degrees currently in Provo. For the Wasatch Front tonight, we had some early storms. Breezy conditions with those storms. Those have died down. We're going to see mostly cloudy conditions overnight into tomorrow morning, and then a partly cloudy day for tomorrow. So the flooding concerns do remain. The mid-elevation watersheds are continuing to run fast. Water is running fast, cold, and high. Please be careful with those pets and kids. They are very susceptible to being swept away if they come across that water. What's left for our flood watches, warnings, and advisories? The Bear River at Corinne, Little Bear below Hiram Reservoir, South Fork of the Ogden River that is near Huntsville, Lower Weber River at Plain City, Bear River in eastern Rich County, McPhee Reservoir to the Colorado River just east of Moab, and the Sevier River near Hatch down towards Panguitch. So our storms have died down here across the state tonight. You're going to have a pretty pleasant evening here across Utah. Much less wind than we had earlier today. Hour by hour forecast, looking at 7 o'clock in the morning, you wake up, we'll have mostly cloudy sky in northern Utah, temperatures about 35 to 50 for almost all of you. And then throughout the day tomorrow, temps close to 70 for much of the state. Tomorrow across Utah, close to 70 in Salt Lake, 60 for Park City, Moab 83 tomorrow, St. George 83 degrees. Chance of precipitation in Ogden going to be widely scattered on Wednesday. Pretty low, though, through much of your 7-day forecast. For Provo, your chance of precipitation is going to be scattered on Wednesday. And then you'll see some isolated chances on and off through much of the 7-day forecast. And for St. George, you'll have a pretty dry 7-day forecast, but by late in the weekend into early next week, we do have some more rain chances for you. So temperatures, St. George, low 80s tomorrow, a little bit cooler on Wednesday at 77, Thursday, low 80s. Friday, Saturday, Sunday, closer to 90 degrees. Some additional clouds late weekend along with those chances for rain potentially returning. For the Wasatch Front, close to 70 tomorrow. Widely scattered rain and thunderstorms on Wednesday with a lot of clouds. Could maybe see a few lingering showers into Thursday. By Friday, 72, 77 on Saturday. And then we head into, after our 7-day forecast, we're going to be close to 80 this weekend. And our temperatures for week 2, days 8 to 14, the 16th through 22nd of May, above average temperatures, and in that same time frame, above normal precipitation. So we're likely going to continue with a wet storm pattern and also a warmer storm pattern through at least the middle part of May.
Utah Jazz center Walker Kessler has been named to the NBA's all-rookie first team today. No surprise after he finished third in the voting for NBA Rookie of the Year award. Kessler had a great season with the Jazz, the 22nd overall pick from Auburn. Came to Utah on the Rudy Gobert trade with the Timberwolves. Kessler averaged 9 points, 8 rebounds, 2 blocks per game, and he had the highest rookie field goal percentage ever at 72%. A great scene yesterday when the Utah lacrosse team won the ASUN championship to qualify for the NCAA championships for the first time in the 5-year history of the program. The Utes take an 11-game winning streak into their first round matchup at Notre Dame on Saturday.
They'll join Jacksonville.
Man, it was honestly surreal. I honestly don't think it hit me until that final whistle blew. I mean, we always talk about not looking at the score and, not thinking on wins and losses, but when that whistle blew and guys are throwing their gear off, rushing our goalie, calling, that was all I've ever wanted coming to play lacrosse is, to win a championship like that, and now we got to keep it rolling.
So deserving for those guys. I mean, with the work that they've put in and how they've carried themselves throughout the year, I mean, it wouldn't have been right if it didn't culminate in that type of success.
Juan Diego's Jerome Morgant broke a 23-year-old state record for the most goals scored in a season, finding the back of the net 44 times and counting. Fox 13's Andrew Urban caught up with the senior from Tahiti.
Number 9, Jerome Morgan.
He's humble. He's unselfish. And he listens. Like his teammates, coaches were giving him ideas and thoughts and, correcting what he might be doing. And he comes back around and once it happened and tells us, hey, you were right, thank you.
I have like a really good teammates who can assist me every time. So I know that without them, I probably wouldn't be there. I kind of consider them as my brothers.
What's working for you? How are you seeing the field, finding the back of the net?
I'm a striker since I was 4. So I work on it all my life, and he paid right now, so yeah.
He had 39 goals in 14 games, season-wise, and then he broke the record in the first playoff game. He comes from Tahiti. He's an international student going to school here, and he plays on a lower international team there. He's been playing soccer a long time. For him, it was just time, that moment.
I'm proud, I'm here to help my team to win this championship because I really want to win it. And yeah, we'll keep working hard since the end. So yeah, until the end. Sorry.
Haro and Juan Diego play in the semifinals of the state tournament this week. We'll be right back.
Thanks everyone for watching Fox 13 News at 9.
Quickcast is up next.